Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to do just kind of a first impressions, not really an unboxing or assembly of the new Shapeoko 5 Pro CNC, just really a first impressions and kind of give you some pros and cons from my opinion. Some of these are going to specifically be directed at my setup and what I like and don't like about how I use it. So let's get to it. Okay, so let's start off on a positive note. Let's start with the pros. So first, just let me say this is my second machine from Carbide 3D, and they did not disappoint again. It is overall an amazing machine. Packaging that it came in, well, actually, thank goodness they packaged the way they do, because despite FedEx's best efforts, everything came unharmed, even though the boxes were nearly destroyed, or in my opinion nearly destroyed with a delivery process. But kudos to Carbide 3D for packing them in such a way that even FedEx didn't mess them up. So that's the first pro for it. Second pro is going to be ease of assembly. I put together my 4XL Pro a while back, and it was much more difficult than this even bigger machine. So as far as user-friendly and being able to assemble very well, ease of assembly is just absolutely amazing on this machine. I got the 4x4, so this is going to go under the Pro, but let me tell you what it is available in. You can get the 2x2 version of the 5 Pro, you can get the 2x4 version, or you can get their largest one, which is the 4x4 version. The Pro on this is it is actually a true 4 foot by 4 foot cutting area. The same is true for the 2x4 and the 2x2. That is the actual cutting area. So the footprint is quite a bit larger. The footprint on my machine is about 60 by 60. I actually built a table that was 61 by 61 to give me a little bit of play on either side. But the cutting area is actually what the machine is sold for, which I think is a great feature. So basically everything on this is pre-assembled. All the drag chain, with the exception of the cord for your router or spindle, everything is already pre-wired, pre-assembled. You don't have to worry about popping all of the drag chain apart like you did with the previous versions. So that is a big plus. It makes the assembly process go much faster. Speaking of the wiring, another pro is all of the wiring is plug and play, meaning if you have a connection point where there are several different connections to take place, it can only be hooked up one way. So you can't plug the wrong axis into the other axis on each end like you actually could by mistake on the previous versions. So this one, when they come together, you simply plug what fits into what and you're good to go. It takes just a few seconds. I upgraded to the VFD spindle, which if you do have the means to do so, I completely recommend. It is such a huge upgrade. It does have some things on the con side I'll talk about in a second, but the spindle itself overall, performance-wise, is amazing. The spindle is super quiet. It's kind of a catch-22. The spindle is very quiet. You can barely hear it running actually. However, you have to have dust collection, and unless you have a dust collector that is outside of your shop somewhere, your dust collector like mine is going to be quite a bit louder than your actual spindle running. So that's where I am on mine, but the spindle is very quiet. Another pro, I think, you may not, depends on what you're doing, and especially if you're filming, is the LED light strip underneath the gantry. I think that is awesome for a couple of reasons. Number one, it allows me to see the work area much better, no matter where the gantry is on the project. Number two, if I'm going to film, it gives you light right there where you're going to film. So for those of you that produce content, especially CNC content, I don't do a whole lot of that on this channel, but you have that option. And that leads me into the next Pro with the the Z assembly. Now comes with a mounting option on the side of it. There's a little bolt, and it actually allows you to attach different attachments like a camera. You can actually mount a camera directly to the Z mount. It is pretty cool. I've got some footage in another video where I've actually done that. I'll link that footage either down in the description or up here in one of these corners, wherever it shows up, and you can see it when it comes out.
The sponsor of today's video is High Tech Ad Specialties. These folks are great. They are here in Rome, Georgia, and have been in business for over 20 years. They are the premier source for all of your promotional products and offer a wide range of classic promotional items such as hats, shirts, hoodies, awards, business cards, pins, koozies, and so much more. Navigate over to their website here at hightechadspecialties.com. You can explore custom printing ideas, several different promotional items, just a ton of stuff that is available. They also offer embroidering, digital printing, which you can see on my shirts here at STL Woodworking, and sublimation, screen printing, engraving, as well as logo creation from one of their amazing designers. So if you have a need for any of these products, or if you have an upcoming event like a wedding, a family reunion, some kind of a business event, they can facilitate everything you need. If you want to check them out, I'm going to leave a link in the description below. Feel free to give them a call and get you a quote, and come back and visit their website at any time. All right, back to the video.
So overall, quite a bit of pros. I do have a few cons, but a lot of these cons are just specifically related to my setup and my use. But overall, definitely a great machine. Biggest pro, I think, for Carbide 3D is probably their customer service. If you've never bought anything from them or had to deal with them on any issue, they are just amazing with their customer service. I think that's probably one of the biggest pros no matter what machine you buy from them. I had some issues with the router on my 4XL. No questions asked, really. They just sent me a new router. It was just amazing customer service. And any question I have had thus far, they respond immediately. And I don't know that they ever close, because it can be the weekend or a holiday, and they will actually respond to you. So that'll lead me into my first, I guess, con. Not really a con, but I had a grounding block missing that goes on the machine to actually ground it from static electricity. It wasn't in the delivery. This was 4th of July weekend, and I contacted them by email. Within a couple of hours, I actually got a reply back, and I think it was Saturday morning, they mailed out the grounding block replacement. So over a holiday weekend, they were still hard at it. So kudos to you, Carbide 3D. Good job. So on the cons, my first con is probably just me, or could be you too, depending on how you feel about it. But this is what you get for your instructions. You have to actually scan this QR code and either look at the instructions on your phone, or do what I did and spend a lot of time in ink and print out your own instructions. I am a instructions in the hand kind of person when it comes to stuff like this. That's just me. You may not be that way, but it was a little frustrating having to print all that out. And but in any case, it didn't take too long. But I would like to see, like my 4 Pro here came with this nice detailed instruction manual. I think this is the way to go, Carbide. or at least have the option if you'd like the manual included, because I would have preferred that, but not that big a deal. Another con is the drag chain tails. So luckily I have assembled one of these before, and I already knew the orientation the drag chain tails had to be able to facilitate the cords coming through them and them being able to mount. I can imagine if somebody hasn't, it would get very confusing and take you a little bit of time to figure out that one of those tails had to be taken off and flipped over and reattached to mount the drag chain. So could have been just my machine. I don't know if that's how they come at all, but this is just my experience. So not a huge deal. Again, like I said, I upgraded to the VFD spindle, so this con is specifically related to my setup and the spindle itself. The cord on the spindle is not long enough. The way my setup is and where I have to mount my control box and where I have my power, it's behind the machine, which I would assume probably is the case for most people, but I could be completely wrong. The cord is not long enough, so my control box for my spindle is actually mounted way back here, as you can see, behind my machine on the wall. Not that I really have to get to it because there's really nothing to change, but I would have liked to have had it a little closer up to the front, but that's just me. Having said that, there was also, this is a con, there was no instructions whatsoever when it came to the spindle. The spindle simply came in a box, and that's it. There was no paperwork with it. There was nothing to tell me anything about hooking the spindle up or how to operate the control box, or actually the fact that you don't operate the control box whatsoever. None of that was there, and I didn't know. This was my first spindle, so I was unaware of that. So it would have been nice to have some kind of little quick reference thing or users thing inside the box. I did find one online. However, it only referenced how to mount it and everything. Nothing actually referenced the fact that you don't mess with the control box. It should come out of the box ready to go and show you the RPMs. You can, however, monitor other things like the hertz and stuff that the machine's running at, but you don't have to. But none of that was explained in the box, so that was a little frustrating. But again, reach out to Carbide. They were quick to respond, and I got that taken care of. Another con is has to do also with the length of cable. As you can see here, the length, again, this is my setup and how I have things where I need them. You may not have the same issue that I do, but where I had to mount my control box, the cable for the emergency shutoff little pendant is not as long as I would like it. Not a huge deal, but just something to think about whenever you're thinking about where everything's going to mount. And the last con that I have actually has to do, I think, with more on the motion side, the Carbide Motion, which is the software that controls the CNC, is the pause feature either on the little controller or on your laptop, either which way. When you hit pause, it just simply stops where it's at. Whereas before, when you hit pause, the spindle or the Z-axis would actually raise up. I do like this feature, especially if somebody's going to be creating content, because sometimes I want to film something for just a short period of time without the sweepy on, and I would like to be able to hit pause, that Z-axis lift up, and I'd be able to remove sweepy and then start it again, and so on and so forth. That's not an option now. When you hit pause, it just simply stays where it's at, so you don't get a look at anything there. One added note, I guess this is kind of a pro and a con. So they have an extended sweepy now available for the spindle specifically, because if you try to put the regular sweepy onto the spindle, it doesn't reach down far enough to the surface to actually do very good with dust collection. Having said that, They do have the extended sweepy now available. The only issue is, I think if somebody upgrades to the VFD spindle, you should include the extended sweepy carbide, not the regular sweepy. I just think that would be a way to go, because we already know the regular sweepy is not going to work well on the VFD spindle. Okay, so that's all I've got for today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down in the comments. I'll leave a link to Carbide's website and the machine I actually purchased down in the description. If you're interested in that, don't forget to reach out to our sponsor of today's video. Great bunch of folks. This is where my t-shirts came from. They do pretty much all of my stuff. So great folks if you're looking for anything mentioned in the ad. Anyway, see you in the next video.